October 2024. On a freezing ridgeline in Ladakh, Indian and Chinese soldiers exchange sweets as their armies step back from a 4-year standoff. The handshake is real. So are the 80,000 troops still dug in around them. India and China share the longest disputed frontier on Earth. Both are nuclear powers. Together, they hold nearly 3 billion people. They fought one war in 1962, and they buried soldiers after hand-to-hand brawls as recently as 2020. So what actually happens if the two Asian giants go to war? This is not a prediction. It is a reconstruction built from war games and studies by the world's leading strategic think tanks. Start with the board. The line of actual control runs roughly 3,500 kilometers through the highest battlefield terrain on the planet. 3 sectors. In the west, Ladakh, 1,600 kilometers of 5,000-meter desert, home to the names you may remember: Depsang, Golan, Pangong Lake. In the east, Arunachal Pradesh, which China claims entirely and calls South Tibet. Its crown jewel is the monastery town of Tawang. Between them, a middle sector that stays mostly quiet. And one more thing every planner obsesses over: the Siliguri corridor, the chicken's neck, a strip of India barely 22 kilometers wide, connecting the mainland to its entire northeast. From Chinese positions in the Chumbai Valley, it is only about 130 kilometers away. Cut it, and 8 states and 45 million Indians are severed from their country. Geography is the first weapon. How would it start? Almost no analyst expects a bolt-from-the-blue invasion. The scenarios that worry planners are smaller. A limited land grab. Chinese forces seize a disputed pocket, the Depsang Plains, or a ridge near Tawang, and dare India to escalate. A succession crisis. The Dalai Lama's passing triggers unrest in Tibet, and a crackdown spills across the line. Or opportunism. China moves on Taiwan, and with the world distracted, decides to settle the Himalayan question too. In most scenarios, the war begins not with a declaration, but with a fait accompli. A few kilometers of frozen ground, taken quietly, that neither side can walk back. If India hits back, and the ladder is climbed, the opening hours look nothing like 1962. China's modern playbook begins with overwhelming precision firepower. Since 2020, the PLA has more than doubled its missile brigades facing India, from 4 to 9. Its PCL-191 rocket launchers reach 300 to 500 kilometers. India's equivalent rockets manage barely a fifth of that. The first salvos target airfields, radars, command posts, and the new mountain roads. India's reply comes by air and by cruise missile. BrahMos strikes on Tibetan airbases and rail lines. Prolai ballistic missiles against the launchers. Both sides discover the same truth. Precision missiles are brutal against fixed targets. And the Himalaya is full of fixed targets, tunnels, bridges, passes, on both sides of the line. The air war is where the studies disagree most, and it shapes everything else. A 2020 Harvard Belfer Center study found a surprising Indian edge. Chinese jets taking off from Tibet at 3,500 to 4,000 meters altitude lose up to half their fuel and weapons load in the thin air, while Indian fighters launch fully loaded from bases just minutes from the border. Around 270 Indian fighters then faced roughly 160 Chinese aircraft in theater. But that snapshot is aging fast. Testimony to the U.S. Congress in 2026 counted 16 Chinese air bases supporting this front, new hardened shelters 70 miles from Tawang, and H-6 bombers now stationed at Hotan. India's S-400 batteries and Rafales make its skies lethal. China's J-20s and a far larger air force make a long attrition fight unsustainable for India. The verdict most analysts share: a violent, contested sky that neither side dominates. On the ground, the mountains vote. Above 4,500 meters, artillery ranges shrink, helicopters lift half their rated loads, and unacclimatized soldiers become casualties of the altitude itself. Attackers classically need 3-to-1 superiority. Himalayan passes can give defenders far better odds than that. India keeps over 200,000 troops in its northern commands, including a dedicated mountain strike corps. China's Western Theater Command matches those numbers, but must feed them through a handful of roads and railways that India can strike. In scenario after scenario, offensives stall within days. A push toward Tawang grinds down before the Sela Pass. A counterattack across the line dies under rocket barrages. Then winter arrives, -30, -40, and the front freezes in place. Literally. Now, the complication India cannot wish away: Pakistan. In May 2025, during India's 4-day clash with Pakistan, Indian generals said China fed Islamabad live battlefield intelligence, while Chinese-built jets and missiles did the shooting. One Indian general summarized it: one border, 3 adversaries. The Stimson Center's arithmetic is stark. A two-front war needs roughly 54 Indian divisions. India has 38. It needs 50 to 60 fighter squadrons. India has about 30. And in most war games, China never needs Pakistan to invade. Just to loom, pinning a third of India's army, 1,000 kilometers from the Himalayan front. India's trump card floats. Nearly 80% of China's imported oil sails through the Indian Ocean and the Malacca Strait, straight past India's Andaman and Nicobar Islands. A natural fortress parked on the choke point. In every extended war scenario, the Indian Navy, 2 carrier groups, a large submarine arm, hunts Chinese shipping, while China's Navy struggles to fight so far from home, with one overseas base in Djibouti and a handful of escorts in these waters. But serious studies insist on an honest caveat. China holds roughly 90 days of strategic oil reserves, plus overland pipelines. And blockades take many months to bite, while Himalayan wars are measured in weeks. The ocean is where India can hurt China most. It is also, probably, too slow to change the war India would actually be fighting. Above everything hangs the shadow. China fields roughly 620 nuclear warheads. India, about 180. Both officially pledge never to use them first. And experts rate this among the most stable nuclear pairings on Earth. The danger is not intent. It is ambiguity. China's DF-26 missiles carry either conventional or nuclear warheads. A conventional strike on the wrong radar can look, on a screen in Beijing or Delhi, like something far worse. Nearly every credible war game ends the same way at this rung of the ladder. Both sides stare down it and deliberately step back. But probably is the only guarantee anyone can offer. Now the bill. India and China trade about $128 billion a year. That stops on day one. 70% of the raw ingredients in India's pharmaceutical industry come from China. So do its solar modules and phone components. China loses a massive market and watches war risk insurance strangle every ship in Asian waters. And the world loses more. 2 of its 3 largest economies at war would shock supply chains harder than anything in living memory. The Economist's shorthand for a full India-China war is simple: a global recession delivered from 5,000 meters. So, who wins? Here is the uncomfortable summary of every serious study. Nobody, cleanly. On paper, China is far ahead. Triple the military budget, deeper missile stocks, a navy more than twice the size. That is why 2026 testimony to the U.S. Congress concluded the balance now significantly favors China. But paper does not fight at 5,000 meters. India defends downhill, close to its bases, with one of the world's most experienced mountain armies. The Harvard study called its advantages underappreciated. The likeliest outcome, across the published scenarios: China takes, or keeps, some disputed pockets. India makes the price obscene. The air war stalemates. The naval war arrives too late. And both governments declare victory over a few hundred square kilometers of frozen rock, bought with thousands of lives and trillions of dollars. Which is exactly why, since late 2024, both sides have chosen to talk. Patrolling deals, resumed flights, leaders shaking hands, while quietly building roads, railways, and missile bases at record speed. Deterrence in the Himalaya is real, but it is not peace. It is 2 acclimatized armies agreeing that, for now, the price is too high. The border is quiet because both sides are getting ready. Whether that readiness is ever used may turn less on Delhi or Beijing than on a succession in Tibet, a crisis over Taiwan, or one cold night on a ridgeline, where 20-year-olds with flashlights decide history. That is what the war games say. The mountains, as always, get the final vote.